So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Alex Olesker from BF&S, the consulting firm, and he may as well introduce to you some of the other principals in the back room who did all this work. Take it away, sir.
Please, just 1 second to start the recording, if you don't mind, sorry.
And it's recording, so you can share with your friends later. That's what we're going on right now.
Sorry, we lost connection here.
Is it better or worse if I do that? Better?
Better.
Let's go better.
Okay.
Sort of like my exam. Number one, number two.
Oh, no, it's PowerPoint. This clip I don't want.
Try clicking on the presentation. Okay. All right. Good. There you go. Sweet. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. As Rob said, my name is Alex Lesker. I'm with Butler, Fairman, and Seufert. Tonight, I'm joined with Andrea Langell. She is our project manager. Neil Bennett is from our. There you go. Neil Bennett is from our environmental department, and Alan Hammersley is with our Parks and Greenways department. As Rob said, tonight I'll be presenting on the Porter Beach Access Improvements Project. This has been a long time coming, as you said. We have a full-on report of roughly over 800 pages. I'm going to do my best to try and give it as concise and short as possible presentation on it. There's a lot of stuff in the background that's been going on. We've looked at multiple different alternatives, multiple different options. That being said, I'm just going to be covering the high-level stuff, what we recommend, what we found, and so on. Quickly run through a quick purpose and agenda for tonight's meeting, starting off with purpose and need, then going through a brief history of where we're at, what we found, and then covering some of the different assessments, mainly the traffic, shared use path, roadway, environmental right-of-way, and then going through our full recommendation list. Starting off with the need and history, as you all know, there's a need for safer access for pedestrians, bicyclists that are trying to access the Porter Beach, mainly from 20 all the way to Porter Beach itself. The town has other various projects going on to get trail connectivity up to 20, and we're trying to take the lead from there. Vehicle congestion during the summer is a major issue. Essentially, if everybody's trying to access the beach, it's just a parking lot on Waverly and 49 in particular. And then also as part of this was that poor sight distance at US 12 and Waverly. As you all know, if you're trying to head out of Waverly, maybe take a left, you kind of got to creep up a little bit at the stop line, wait, realize you can't see anything, creep up a little more, look, still can't see anything, creep up again, you're already halfway through the intersection, and what's the point in that? So for our history of the project, we started off meeting with the key stakeholders. We met with representatives from the town council, parks, and property owners within the area. After that, we conducted multiple site visits with them, walking through the various options that we were thinking of going before we started digging into our project, and then conducted analysis of the existing facilities and came up with our recommendations. The existing additions, it varies speedway-wise from 30 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour, typically 30 between 12 and 20, goes down to 20 miles an hour as you get closer to the beach. The lane widths will vary between 9 and 11 feet. It's more 11 feet on the south end, but as you get closer, the road tends to narrow up. There's virtually no shoulder if you get north of 12. It's just asphalt and then creek. Hope you don't fall in. Side distance issues at 12 and Waverly, like we talked about. The classification of the road itself changes as you're going through 20 to Porter Beach. For those of you that probably don't know, the roads are varied in classes based on NDOT's policies and procedures. Arterials are your big heavy roads like your 8094s, your major thoroughfares connecting. Then they go down to collectors, which will get you to those arterials, kind of like what Waverly Road does. And then you'll have your residential streets. So north of 12, it's a collector based on the traffic volume going through there. Between 12 and 20, as it connects those two principal arterials, it bumps up to an arterial class. This comes into play a little bit when we get to the road assessment portion. But first off, with the traffic assessment, our team was out there, again, multiple site visits. We set up a camera to count the vehicle turning movements at Waverly and State Park Road and 49, and US 12 and Waverly specifically. With that vehicle data, we also looked at crash data, specifically at the 12 and Waverly intersection. From what we could tell from the crash data is there were typically a lot of right angle crashes due to vehicles trying to make that left turn going out, vehicles getting rear-ended because they were stomping on their brakes, trying not to get hit. What we were able to gather from that data and from the traffic analysis was running through the NDOT procedures is the recommendation for intersection improvement there was a roundabout. We also looked at a signalized intersection. However, that would not solve the horizontal sight distance issues, which are the main cause of those accidents. With a signalized intersection, it would also not fully solve the queuing issue when vehicles trying to come out if they're heading south out of Porter Beach and Waverly. So one of the recommendations that we're going with is a roundabout specifically to address those two concerns. They're also recommending updating the pavement markings through the area. There's a significant lack of pavement markings, no proper delineation between the lanes, whereas there's supposed to be a bike path on 49 and so on. And the last thing they're recommending is a smart parking system. This would allow the traffic counts at the parking lots at Porter Beach to be displayed on boards along US 12, so you don't have cars coming off of 12, going down Waverly, realizing they can't park, having to back up, blocking everybody as you're trying to get through, and so on. For the next assessment that we've got is the shared use path. Our Trails Department looked at the right-of-way, environmental, and utility concerns when they decided to try and figure out where the preliminary layout was going to go. As part of that, they've determined and recommended that the trail should go on the eastern side between 20 and 12, swapping over to the western side between 12 and Roskin Road, where there would be a mid-block crossing there. There's enough sight distance that you can allow for a safe mid-block crossing. It will be properly marked, so on and so forth. And then from there, it would be back on the eastern side. This was due to limit any impacts to the environment, to the utilities, and to right-of-way, just trying to minimize what we can do. One key thing with the trail assessment is that the material type varies. Typically, it's going to be a 10-foot wide asphalt trail. However, as you get closer, especially between 12 and State Park Road, if you do a full asphalt trail, you're going to be filling in a large portion of wetlands, which you don't want to do, you can't do, and you shouldn't do. So with that, we're going to be transitioning to a boardwalk where the mitigation will be much less. We'll only have to mitigate where the piles are for that. For the roadway assessment, based on the classifications, we have a couple different sections that we're going to be recommending going through this. We recommend going with a curb and gutter at 20 to 12 due to the arterial classification of the road. This will allow for better drainage and better design for the road itself. Swapping to an asphalt shoulder as you go north of 12 between 12 and State Park. I'll touch on it in a bit, but there's an unnamed tributary of Dunes Creek that runs along the eastern side between 12 and State Park. You don't want to touch that. You want to leave that as is. Try and keep it intact. So one of the reasons for the shoulder sections we'll be able to avoid impacting that, as well as maintaining the roadside ditches, because that'll help treat the water quality as it gets through this area and flows towards Lake Michigan. North of State Park Road, it'll transition back to a curb and gutter. We determine and recommend going this route because this will allow us to get the grade back as we're going over the dune, because the dune currently just kind of falls off. The curb and gutter will allow us to install retaining walls that'll help maintain the dune itself, cutting back on any future erosion that it could possibly have as well. The last two assessments are the environmental and right-of-way. For the right-of-way portion, based on the preliminary layouts that we have, it would be recommending a total of 17 acres of right-of-way would be acquired. 14 acres of those are all national park lands. Again, this is all preliminary, so in design we could change and try and minimize where we can if need be. For the environmental, as I said earlier, there's the Dunes Creek, an unnamed tributary of Dunes Creek. Dunes Creek intersects Waverly Road at State Park Road, that intersection, and the unnamed tributary runs parallel the entire length from 12 to Waverly, from 12 to State Park Road. With the creeks there's a large amount of wetlands in the area. Again, we try to minimize impact as those, try to keep them, leave them as is due to the water quality and the natural effect of them. We also did look at any possible historic properties in the area, because that could have its own bag of issues that we need to deal with in design, trying to minimize and not impact those where we can. We did not find any eligible historical properties, so that's one thing we don't need to concern ourselves with. So what does all that mean? I understand that's all very engineering, very high level, and I do apologize for that. So what that means in reality is we have this map of the proposed layout. You can see where we're proposing the trail section to be at. You can see where we're proposing the potential phasing of this project, and I'll be able to dive into the phasing in a little bit. Well, I'll dive into it now, actually. Phase 1 is going to be that northernmost section from State Park Road to Porter Beach. We're recommending this being phase 1 as it'll allow for that immediate connectivity to the area because there'll be a spur coming down State Park Road, connecting it to the Dunes Kankakee for the pedestrian and bicyclists in the area. This is going to have that curb and gutter section. It has 11-foot wide lanes, so that's the minimum for collector classification of a road. And there's a nice little rendering of what the retaining walls might potentially look like. So as I said, the immediate benefits from this, you'll have that immediate connectivity with the Dunes Kankakee through that little spur. The drainage will be improved in the area, and as the road will be widened, it'll be much safer to access as you're driving down it too. Phase 2 goes from US 20 to US 12. This is a much smaller project and much smaller phase in scope as the road is sufficiently wide enough in most areas. If anything, you're adding a couple feet of asphalt. As you can see, it's got the trail off to the eastern side with the curb and gutter section. As it's an arterial, the minimum lane width is 12 feet per NDOT specs. This would allow the continuation of the other trails in the area along Waverly Road all the way down to Hawthorne Park, which is, in the grand scheme of everything, is the full connectivity that the town is looking for. As I said, you'll have that wider roadway as you're driving down there for those in vehicles. And there is the potential for additional connectivity between the Waverly Trail as well, and the Dunes Kankakee along Bailey Road. That is very preliminary, but it's an option if the town seeks to go that route as well. The last phase is going to be phase 3. This will be between 12 and State Park Road. Due to the environmental impacts in that area, we're putting this as the last phase in order to have enough time to get through potential permitting and so on. As I said earlier, it's going to have that shoulder section. It will have a 4-foot asphalt shoulder with the boardwalk on the western side, so we can minimize the impacts there as well. So this would be the final phase. This would finally connect all the way from Porter Beach down to US 20 and down connect to the future trails that are all the way to Hawthorne Park. This would allow for a wide and safer road in this area. The roadway is down to 9 feet, so it'll be wide an extra 2 feet. Plus, you'll have that shoulder in case anything happens to you. And as part of this phase, but it'll probably be its own separate phase, would be the proposed roundabout at 12 in Waverly. This is somewhat in phase 3, somewhat its own phase due to NDOT. They have their own timeline and their own scheduling of budgets, so most likely this would probably be phase 1 if you're going chronologically. So there's a potential that the roundabout could be done first. However, we don't know based on funding of NDOT. So that's a very, very high level, very brief overview of this 800-page document that we've put together. Next steps are, just so you all know, we're going to take any feedback that you guys provide to us, sit down, review it with the town and with the key stakeholders, finalize the report, and then it'll probably be 801 pages afterwards, handed off to the town to do with how they want. So, thank you.
I'll ask a question only to get the ball started, but you all are invited to ask questions and make statements about it. Alex, could you explain a little bit, go back a slide, and just show how the trail would interact at the roundabout?
Oh, sure. There we go. Alan, feel free to jump in if I say anything wrong, because this is more your area of expertise, but I'll try to take the lead. In phase 2, it's going to be on the eastern side, but we need to get it on the western side. We're proposing to cross 12 at grade, I believe, on the eastern side, on the eastern leg, and then as we get to the northern leg, finish the crossing to get it all the way to the west.
Got it, right there.
So,
A separate path around.
yeah, it'll circle it so you can get over there, We want to put it at the roundabout because the speeds will be lower as you enter the roundabout, so it'll be much safer, and it'll be not signalized, but proper markings, proper delineation.
I mean, there's standard design specs for that sort of
Yeah.
way of doing that.
And it's kind of shown, you look at it if you see it, but on the south side of 12 on the right, there's kind of a gray line that goes through there, and you can see where the grade crosses 12 and then back across Waverly, so.
They also, there's the medians that separate the lanes have a, that one is a place for refuge, right?
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, those are refuge islands, the green little triangles. If you're a shell user, you can stop there, yeah, you're separated from traffic, they can move past, and you can continue.
Yeah, the roundabout that Rob brought up. What are you gonna avoid, trucks, semis? Because that roundabout is gonna have to be enormous with the semis that go there. I mean, I lived out there for 30-some years. I don't know how they're gonna handle a roundabout. And I've been on this board for over 20 years. Waverly, you do know, has springs under it. I'm talking about water springs.
Yeah.
And so we've always been worried about our people like Mike, I don't know if Mike's worried about, but about it caving in and that. So I always wondered why they couldn't do something like in Beverly Shores where they put those grates in to flow the water across, which would also stop the flooding down there also. And as far as the trails and bike things, I'm a guy who don't like spending money. You got all these bike trails in and walking trails. Just when I came to this meeting, the first meeting, people right on the west side of Waverly, you got walking and bikes. People are driving down the main drag. They just go on a weekend, even on the highway, with all that paved towards Michigan City, they ride on the highway.
Yeah.
So I'm really concerned about the road more than anything, and that roundabout, because I don't know how you would get a semi on a roundabout, and there's a lot of semis that go there in large trucks. I'll leave it at that.
One of the pieces for the roundabout through the NDOT design and procedures is that you have to check the turning movements for a semi truck essentially. I can't remember the actual classification off the top of my head, but that's one of the checks that you need to do. There, we had another roundabout design that was trying to keep it narrow, cut down on right of way, but it didn't pass the checks for the turning movement. So that's kind of why we settled with this design, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
The roundabout, it's 6 and 2 in Westville, semis
Yeah.
go through it all the time. That new roundabout.
Yeah, I've
That's
been
what
there.
that's designed for.
But I mean, you're gonna take up a lot of property there. Of course, we've got it, so
Yep.
might as
And
well
that's
use it.
mostly national park property. I think it's all national park.
Yeah.
Yeah, we traded lots with the national park on the north side of 12 some time ago.
Gotcha.
We traded off so we'd have more.
Good to know.
Someone else have a question or just a comment? You like it, you don't like it? Love to hear from other folks.
Hi, maybe this is a better question for Mike. When you talk about roundabouts and semis, I know they were gonna put a roundabout maybe 15 years ago by the visitor center, and it was a diamond-shaped roundabout for the semis. Now, I know the engineers, I'm sure if they're gonna design a roundabout, they're gonna design it for semis. If they're gonna build in that area, they would have to do that, they would have to know how to do that. But they did have the, I don't know, does the one in Westville have a is that a done, Mike?
No, it's just a big roundabout like
It's
that,
Big
big enough for
round
semis.
It's
Because I know
big.
back then, but this was 15 years ago, they said they had to make it diamond shaped for the semis.
That one was a double dog bone we looked at, they call it.
Anyway,
Two
I'm sure the
roundabouts.
engineers would know how to do that because
Yep.
that's part of what they do.
Yeah, that, it's hard to tell the scale on that, but that's
Yeah.
pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about 200 feet in diameter,
Yeah.
that particular
It's a big
one, but
roundabout.
it does, yeah, so it is a big roundabout, and particularly being on an NDOT road, they will require that truck movements are available for vehicles. If you make it too tight, the trucks struggle to maneuver and it backs traffic up. There is a truck apron that gets for tighter turns that trucks can bring their back wheels on, so the design criteria does require that the tractor portion of the truck is in the black part of the pavement, and then their drag can be up on the truck apron a bit, but being on a state road, NDOT will have oversight over it, and their requirement is that it is built and designed for truck traffic.
Yeah, phase one, where it's on Skate Park Road.
Yep.
You could go back to that slide you just had on.
That one?
Yeah, so you could, so the pink right there
Uh-huh.
and the purple.
Yes.
What is the plan for that spur? Are you just widening the road there and then putting a bike path on one shoulder? Or, I mean, what was the plan? Because that road is pretty narrow.
Yeah, I believe it'd be on the north side in the
Right,
parkway.
there's some existing power poles, I think, or utility poles on the north side of the road. The plan was, at least the recommendation would be to think about putting the trail on that side and the north side of State Park Road to reduce the amount of impacts to trees and other environmental issues. But it looks like there's enough room there to simply just pave it next to the existing road.
Okay, and then, I know you said it's just very preliminary, but the path that cuts through on Bailey, and I think it's 2A,
Yes.
it looked like it cut right in between the two Bailey streets according to your map, and I don't know if that's the scale.
Yeah, that's just the map.
It's
being
on
off a
North
little bit.
Bailey.
It's
Yeah,
on North
it'll be on
Bailey.
North
And
Bailey.
that would be a shared, we had that on another project, it would just be a shared road, because the road's so narrow.
Okay, and then.
And that's
it
if we do
obviously
it.
has to cross 49 right there?
Yeah, we preliminarily met with NDOT, and they were okay with an at-grade crossing there,
Mhm.
as long as we pushed it up. We wanted to be south where the sign is, the national park sign, and they thought it was too much into the curve, so they said if we moved it up to North Bailey, they were happy with it. Then we can do an at-grade crossing with the signals,
Flashing lights.
the hawk lights and stuff like that. So that's an option to see if, if we need it, then, that's one more crossing, because we're trying to connect everybody, so you don't have to go 2 miles out of your way to get back and forth. As much access as possible. There's no, way back when he showed lack of sidewalks, there's really sidewalk at Porter Beach and then nothing all the
Yeah.
time. So there's no sidewalk,
Parking
so
lots.
a lot of people that live along Waverly are excited to hear that there's some way they can get north and south and have a sidewalk to safely walk on rather than strolling out in the middle of the road or not having sidewalks, so.
How are you gonna handle the water on State Park Road? It floods.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
part of it, we would be rebuilding that little bit of the road as well. So we would go through a full drainage design.
Is there anything about putting grates in there like at Beverly Shores?
We could look at that for sure. We haven't gone through full drainage design yet. It's still preliminary, getting the
I
report through
think that
first,
would
but
be the cheapest way.
yeah, we can definitely look at that.
Got a question right there?
Oh, yeah. Hi. I can tell you as a cyclist, I've been through a lot of roundabouts, and I would never attempt that one without signals. So what I would do coming from Porter Beach south on Waverly is then take the State Park Road over to 49 and then get on that trail and then continue going south, going kind of toward the visitor center, and then I would get on that phase 2 path of the Dunes Key Trail and then follow Waverly Road back. I would just avoid that whole mess there. It just seems way too scary. And I can just think, if you have a lot of traffic, no signals, and cyclists like trying to maneuver that kind of thing, I think it's gonna get really backed up again.
Okay.
I won't deny that roundabouts and trails are sometimes a little difficult to maneuver. It involves a couple of crossings in each direction. But we would be following any standards for a roundabout like that. And I think they're constantly improving the signage and markings and that sort of thing, and the spacing of where those crossings happen in relationship to the roundabout. Constantly trying to find new ways and better ways of sizing that. So at the time that roundabout gets designed, that would certainly be taken into account. But anytime you're crossing any road anywhere, you've added an element of safety to not only on the State Park Road, but as you can see right there, the Calumet Trail is just above 12. You could use that to go over, come back, and bypass that as well.
And I'd just like to add into that, and I'm with you, I like that you see options, so the premise is improved access, so the nice thing about the roundabout though, it may be scary at first, right now, that's an uncontrolled intersection going on 12, speeds are high, so if you were to use that today with your bike, you'd be crossing 2 lanes of traffic. Right. So, but in the future, travel speeds going through that roundabout are gonna be down to, 15 to 30 miles an hour, and you only need to cross 1 lane at a time now. So vehicles will be forced to slow down, and the crossing width is shorter, and obviously the sight distance issue that currently exists, so while it may not be ideal for cyclist users, it'll be improved over what it is today, and like you said, there are other options that are more appealing to cyclists, but.
Okay, great, thanks.
And how does it get across 20? Where does it get across 20?
I can answer that. So we're, right now at 20, there's the Porter Quick Stop, and across from that, you got the empty lot that seems to have turned into a used vehicle lot. So we have spoken to I've spoken to the owners of that property. The redevelopment commission is going to be looking at options to purchase that. So back to NDOT, they wanted us to cross 20 perpendicular, and since that's at an angle, that pushes that out into that property. And when that intersection was redone a few years ago, the signal wiring was put in for push-button crosswalks. So all the wiring's there already, we had that put in. So we'll have push-button crosswalks across 20 spilling out onto the other side. And then we are working on separately connecting and finishing the rest of the trail that's on Waverly Road and sort of stops right now. If you've noticed the last couple days, you saw 1 lane of traffic and they're drilling holes in the road. So NDOT is going to resurface the bridge over 94. Part of that project is to continue the bike trail on the west side of the road. And we're gonna pay $520,000 for them to continue the trail over there. So now we've got the trail piece and the gap filled in up to Orchard Apartments. Then we need to continue that up to Oak Hill Road, cross the street to the east side, and connect at the bottom line there. So that's being worked on together and separately, so yeah. So that will be a push button at grade crossing with crosswalk when it's done. Nice, safe, walk your bike across the street. No Frogger. I think we all know what Frogger is.
Nobody else has comments. All right, Eric Elmuth, I live at 2828 Wabash. I have several comments. So I'd start with the high level. You said that this is a need, and you went right past it. So explain why this is needed, because it doesn't quite make sense to me. Because it only benefits people from Porter Beach going south. It only benefits people going from the train station over, which is all non-Porter residents.
That's fair. That's fair. The biggest need, and I don't feel like scrolling all the way back, the biggest need is the lack of pedestrian access. It's narrows down to a 9-foot road. The vehicles have can potentially fall into the creeks. There's, mom walking her strollers right down the middle of the road, and so those are the biggest needs.
That's me. I mean, my wife and I, we walk. I see Rob, we ride our bikes up there, Mr. Erickson, but that still doesn't address, I think that, how does that not invite more people? It invites more traffic.
Yeah.
And that's not what any of the residents at Porter Beach want up there. The town can't even handle the traffic as it is. You talk about having signs about, smart metering. We already have that. It doesn't work.
So Eric, since I was there at the beginning, I'll tell you what the answer to the motivation was. You're right about the nodes, right? So there's users whose trip will originate at Porter Beach. We expect that there are users whose trip will originate in Central Porter. we think that the node of the train station is an important destination and node. You're right about all those three. We also think that with the Marquette Greenway and the use of the Calumet Trail, there'll be visitors from east and west who are also connecting. And to the extent to which they want to go down Waverly towards the beach or into town, and we do want them to come into town to business, we want to get the pedestrians and the bicyclists off of the street. So we think there's more than just the three nodes you mentioned. We actually think Porter is extremely well positioned to be in a web of multiple places to go and places to come from. The second thing so you're right about the first three, and I think there's even more nodes. The second thing was about more traffic. We expect this to result in more pedestrian and bicycle traffic. And I would assert that as a resident of Porter, I have no trouble with more bicycle and pedestrian traffic. I actually think we can have more people come and visit than we do. What I would like to see is, number one, them separated from the car traffic. And number two, I'd really like them to leave their car at home, take the train, and take the trails. And we think this will help. I don't think any of us think that this will bring more cars to Porter Beach. I really don't think that's the case. I don't expect that this would bring more traffic there.
Yeah, can I, real quick, Laura, before the reason we started this project was part what Rob said, separate vehicles, and also to reduce cars. We're trying to figure out how to eliminate cars in Porter Beach. So part of that is give them another option to walk, bike, whatever, get up there without driving a car. And then separate from all of this is a whole nother discussion on shuttle buses and things like that to eliminate cars. It's not part of this project. It's a separate project we're working on. So the whole idea is to reduce the vehicle traffic, the car traffic.
Yeah.
So that's what actually triggered the start of this whole thing was how do we get rid of cars?
Fully agree.
So that's what a lot of that's for.
As an engineer,
Yeah.
you guys all know this, you have to do a study that this actually solves the need.
Right.
Okay, Laura, you had a
Yeah.
Clear how this addresses said need.
So there's another need that was, it was on my list of priorities when first exploring this option, and that was getting teenagers back and forth between Chesterton and the town of Porter because of the old high school turned middle school about to be healthy living YMCA campus, right? So connecting Chesterton and Porter's trails through there, giving them access between the YMCA and Hawthorne Park safely, and then from Hawthorne Park back up to the beach.
Yes. I mean,
So that was my priority, right? And the residents that live in downtown Porter, also downtown Chesterton, but downtown Porter residents don't have an easy bikeable, walkable way to get back and forth between our parks and the visitor center, and this would provide that option.
And
While also connecting south to Chesterton for the residents and teenagers in Chesterton to access.
Let me just
Without
add-
having to get in a car and drive.
Let me just add the train station to it, and to get
And
the
the train
train
station.
station. Porter can be a much more walkable community, and that's a huge value. Okay, Eric, I know you had additional observations.
Yes.
What's an additional one?
So, somebody wrote the INDOT white paper on roundabouts, that's quite an elevation change. So have you guys considered the difference in elevation? I saw it looked like you moved it actually, the roundabout to the north, I would say you'd actually wanna take it more to the southeast. Cause you can't have them, there's a grade lines for what you can approach roundabout.
Yeah, we're under 2% of that layout coming in.
Okay, so make sure you understand that. Next one.
Number 3.
is-
Keep it
What?
coming.
So across the, this would be going right across the street from me on my property. That is, prairie, duneland, which is extremely sensitive. There's not a whole lot of it. I don't see any addressing of the dunes, the grasses, the cactus, the flowers. We have those lizard geckos that are literally rape only. You know the drought, they're only on our dune. Have you guys looked into that, the impacts that might have?
Yes.
And
So
offsetting like you do for wetlands or
So
anything?
the design for the trail along from, what is it, Roskin north of the beach, goes along the east side of the road and will literally only encroach on the dune just a small amount by placing a retaining wall along there. We vastly minimize that footprint, also providing a way to prevent from any kind of future erosion by continually spilling sand onto the road / trail section.
Yep.
And then, of course, that can easily be revegetated, after the construction is done with the appropriate species.
With
But
that-
the encroachment is very minimal.
So there's a lot of drainage issues at Roskin and Waverly. All that water runs down, as you guys probably looked at, so is there, we don't have storm sewers up there, storm sewer board. Dry wells do not work up there, as
No.
we've seen how we tried to put in, so,
High groundwater table.
Yeah.
you gonna,
I'll just speak to the fact that this is preliminary, and honestly, we
Okay.
haven't got to the level of engineering that it would require to answer your question adequately. But once, if it was to say, if the town says, hey, we'd like to move forward with this, we want to actually go into that level of engineering, we would be able to look into that.
I just heard it said it was an improved drainage, so I thought.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the idea would be that this project would accomplish that
So-
as well.
And then is my last question, is the railroad crossing already addressed, Mike?
We've had discussions with them, but we haven't finalized it yet.
Okay.
They're positive comments, let's just put it that way.
Thank you, Eric, 4 good points.
Well done.
4 good points.
Thanks, Eric.
That's why it's 800 pages distilled down into this.
I'll read all 800.
Or as I said the other day, because I think everybody knows how to make maple syrup, it takes a lot of sap to make syrup, so that's what we're doing. You're just seeing the syrup.
You know, and Laura, I'll speak to your point, I would like to see the whole town more pedestrian friendly. I ride my bike, I walk
Yep.
through town. There's not one railroad crossing in town that is pedestrian friendly.
Nope.
Only the Mineral Springs one,
Right.
the new one.
The new one.
That's the
Right,
only one.
And it's terrible, like you said,
Agreed.
to walk, cause I walk from, Bike Trail to Town Hall some days. And all those railroad crossings are terrible to cross, and for myself, and I know for kids, it's horrible.
It's horrible. I want those enhanced safety railroad crossings at all of our crossings in town.
So I think that's something that really should be addressed before we worry about getting people to the beach.
Yeah, yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Tim, you got something on your mind, I see.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I know some time ago, there was a talk about high-speed fly-by rail, like connecting Detroit to Chicago or something like that, that would come through Chesterton right there and border. I don't know, is that just totally dead? Anybody know anything about that?
As far as I know, it's totally dead. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Keep it up.
There was a discussion a while back, and then it
Yeah.
disappeared. Yeah.
Just before this meeting, it went by 10 miles an hour. Comments, yes.
Yeah, real quick, you know, I don't think anybody would deny that the intersection at Waverly and 12 is just extremely dangerous. What, 2.5 weeks ago, there was another fatal accident there. A young lady lost her life, unfortunately. But that, coupled with, you know, the use of Porter's Police to direct traffic at State Park Road, and before that, it was at 12. We've all lived there and been directed around one way or the other. None of this necessarily addresses that. Is there a way we could work in to help the town of Porter with the traffic as was brought up before? Because it just seems this doesn't solve a lot of the issues of traffic getting down there, and it doesn't reduce the traffic as I see it that actually gets down there, or reduce the need for Porter to take on this directing of traffic back over to 49 in the continuous loop of cars that we have down there.
Alex,
I
you
love
want to,
that question. I love that question.
yes.
Thank you, sir.
Alex, you want to talk about within the context within which you guys looked at it? And then Mike and I might be able to talk about other initiatives that address your question, but let's start with you guys.
Sure. One of the things that would hopefully limit the vehicles going down would be the monitoring system. That'll automatically update the smart monitoring parking system at those parking lots at Porter Beach.
But it doesn't stop the cars from getting down there. You still
Right.
need somebody unless you have a monitoring system at the roundabout that shuts off the southbound roundabout, cars are still gonna be headed that way.
Sure, but hopefully, the intent is that it will deter some from going if they know they can't park there, down there anyway.
Right, I'll agree with you on that,
Yeah.
but we still have the border cops every weekend heading for cars away.
I can kind of address that a little bit, but when did we start our Porter Beach meetings? 2008, 5 years ago?
Can't see my.
4.5 years ago.
So Rob spearheaded meetings that we have with our law enforcement, with state national parks 4.5 years ago.
Gary Drive, you take off.
And I applaud Rob for doing that. And we meet regularly every year. And that, what you just said is literally what we talk about every single meeting.
It's the main
So,
topic.
we can do what we can do. National Park and State Park have to do what they can do. National Park has stepped up on a lot of things. They tried a system of counting cars that miserably failed last year. So they're looking into a different solution for that. And so separately, we're trying to get them to put something together that'll work, that we can sign further down the road so that people do not come down there because they can see on their app or wherever the signs are, there's no parking spaces. Don't even bother. Our police, unfortunately, have to manually go through people, which is better than it was, but it's a terrible solution to the problem. So we've talked about the shuttle bus thing with the National Park. National Park doesn't want to run shuttle buses. We have somebody who's interested in doing that. The problem is we brought it up in May, and it takes so long for the federal government to approve anything. We're talking about 2026 now. But we do have somebody that wants to do that. So the plan originally was the North National Park lot, which has the restroom, would be disabled parking and shuttle bus drop-off. And we do have a place to take people. The theory behind that sounds good, but in practicality, I'm wondering how many people ride a shuttle bus with the stuff they haul to the beach.
Right.
So how do we get rid of cars? So that we're taking different approaches. That let's look at this, let's look at this, and they're all working together, not part of this project, but adjacent to it. And again, we meet with them constantly to go over these things. And the National Park is very interested in solving that problem. State Park's a little bit different. They have a different concept of how to do things. So 49 is just a mess, backed up. Essentially, they have their ticket booths. Their parking lot's never full because they don't have enough ticket booths to fill the lot up, and they back traffic up, and then we have to police it, which is not ideal for the town. So we discuss this every couple months when we have a meeting with them, and we're trying to solve that. That would be literally like our meeting, what you just said, in a nutshell. Half the meeting we talk about all that stuff. And we're trying to solve that, and there's different ways we're trying to do it. This is one part of it, and it's frustrating for all of us trying to figure that out.
Including
I would be really frustrated, I'm sorry, if I lived at Porter Beach and had to drive through that all the time.
And the National Park Service is interested in solving, and as far as they're concerned, everything is on the table. They haven't said yes to some of the more radical changes, but they haven't taken anything off the table. I think your point is, as long as someone believes there's a parking place at Porter Beach, they're gonna turn on Waverly. And everybody knows that the solution says, well, you're gonna have to get people to not believe that there's a parking place there. There's more than one way to do it. Alex explained this technology one, and the National Park already experimented with it. Unfortunately, the vendor that put their counter in failed, but they're open to that solution. They're also, and as Mike explained, different adaptive and maybe reduced uses of some of the parking lots up there, including some very radical solutions. But the idea is probably needs to be fewer parking places down there. So we're still working on it. But you're right, as long as someone thinks there's a parking place, they're gonna go to Porter Beach. It's a great place. We love living in Porter.
I mean, it's a destination, right?
I've actually seen in Beverly Shores where they'll have a parking lot's full and they'll back up waiting for someone to leave so they can go in.
Which is why we need to have our police out there all weekend, all summer long.
But I feel sorry for them too in this hot weather.
Even if the signage is clear and warns them ahead of time, they'll just pull up and wait and still block the, the streets going through.
So I wanna bring up something else we looked at that may or may not be implemented, but from our visits out there, watching traffic, seasonal, non-seasonal traffic, but there was a lot of people that were trying to access the park, that were coming down Waverly, coming across State Park and trying to cut the line that was backing up traffic for people wanting to get to Porter Beach. So we looked at an idea where maybe seasonally State Park becomes a one-way road, so people can't come in and shoot back. So thereby kind of reducing the amount of, state park traffic or national park traffic that is on Waverly and making that roseway more usable to the Porter Beach traffic. So that's one of those other options that we've looked at. Functionally, it works for traffic. I mean, obviously, there's never gonna be enough lane widths and storage widths to get the folks that are going to the national park. But to want people not to be able to access State Park, it's gonna deter them from using Waverly to cheat in that way. So hopefully, if that gets implemented, that'll help people that need to get down or want to get down to Porter Beach to have a little bit more free flow access on that.
You really hear two themes here, right? One is there's the congestion problem, right? But the other thing is increasing access and making Porter more walkable. They really both are at the heart of all this is. I'm interjecting now to put an advertisement in. Mike and I and Brian Bagaitsky, our park director, will be working on a pedestrian bicycle master plan starting later this summer, and we'll have it out in the fall. And we know one of the themes is we got to wake up. Porter's at the heart of the greatest, the central point of the greatest network of bicycle trails. We just have to put it together, and it's going to help Porter's business. It'll help the people who live here and make it a more walkable community. And this project is like, it's the best enabler for it. So besides the sort of negative of let's reduce the problem, there's also real good that we hope is going to come out of here. So please participate this fall when you hear about our master plan program.
I just have one comment. So I live about as close as you can get to both the Calumet Trail and the Dunes Kankakee Trail. It's about an eighth of a mile. I'm on Duke's Forest Trail. And there's no safe way to connect it either from where you're at.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
like a
fact that
no-brainer.
you are undertaking this study, and I'm all in favor of it. I think it's, it's overdue.
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Yeah, it's huge. We're at the center of all these trails coming together, and Porter can capitalize on it. Okay, my advertisement's over. Other comments or questions? And if you think of one later, you'll be able to go to our website on the Plan Commission part, and Mike set up the email for us today. You can email plancommission@porter.n.gov.
Yeah.
And these guys are gonna finish up another month or so in the next 3-4 weeks, you think of other questions or comments, by all means, email it to us. We'd love to hear them.
Who
Get
in
them
here is
corrected.
familiar with our town website?
Good.
Okay, but the town website, who's been on the town website? Okay, good.
Out of town or on the town website.
I know. So what we have no town, there's no local newspaper. We have our town website. We don't have a Facebook page, nor do we want a Facebook page. But we have a town website. We're trying to drive more and more people to that, and we put more and more information on the town website. We just changed the name from .com to townofporter.in.gov because that's required by the government. So the website's the same, but it's got a different address on it. We're migrating to a different platform shortly, which we think will be more informative and easier for people to navigate. So it'll just change the look of it shortly, and I'm saying by fall. But our intent is to put as much information on that as we can. We're also looking into a program or a way to notify people. So our current website has notifications on it where you can sign up, and then when something's put on there, it'll notify you. The new one doesn't have that, so we're gonna do a standalone, some sort of standalone program where people could be notified, and then we wanna try and encourage as many people in the town to sign up for that, because that's how we get information out to people. And the more people that are informed, the better things are, and that's our main goal, is to try and get as many people involved in the town and as much information out to everybody as we can. But we are gonna put this presentation on the Plan Commission part of the website, and we created an email address that Rob just mentioned for any comments anybody has about anything for Plan Commission. There's all kinds of different ways to notify people to town that way. It'll be streamlined in the new website a little bit. But we're always encouraging people to be active in the town, and I'm excited to see this many people here. This is fabulous. Because, I was joking with somebody, I said, sometimes it's really not a good feeling when your consultants outnumber your members of your town that showed up for a presentation. So I really appreciate everybody coming.
So I have an unusual request, right? We appreciate BFNS coming up here and doing the bridge. Thank you for that. But I want the applause for is I want all the staff members to applaud the citizens who showed up. Thank you for coming. All right, if you came here because you're also interested in the improvements to our rental and accessory dwelling unit ordinance, please come next month. We'll promise to get it in there when we have a quorum. And then we also have an issue with final response to the Ball State landscape architecture. We will do that in August, and I hope to see some of you then too. But thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it. And thanks to you guys too.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Great.